just a ripple effect, and knowing that, wow, you know what, this is what I wanted. This is what it's all about. The circle, the ripple, the everything of it all coming full circle, and showing that the people that we help are not somebody who just takes the car and sells it next month. Somebody who uses that as a tool to get to the next level and then turns around and gives back.
Hello and welcome back to the Ignition Path Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Goodknight. And before we get into our show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you hear something during this episode that resonates with you or with someone else you know, don't forget, hit that super easy share button at the bottom right-hand corner of most people's phones inside of all your platforms. Share it with that friend. Just text them or email them directly that they need to watch this show. So today I've got Cindy Witteman, and she came to me through another networking event. Sounded like we would, like her and I should meet up and find out where we could collaborate and find out, what we could help each other with. And the one good thing about the Ignition Path podcast is this is all about the path that us entrepreneurs take to get to where we're at. So Cindy had a great story, and when I had my pre-call with her, as I always do, and if you ever want to be on the Ignition Path podcast, just know you're going to have a pre-call because that's where I get to know you, right?
Yeah.
Cindy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So real quick, just tell us who you are, where a little bit about your path. I know you've been an entrepreneur for quite a while, but, talk about those days before the entrepreneur stuff and what made you decide if you're and what you did prior to becoming an entrepreneur.
Great. So yeah, I'm Cindy. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I am the founder and CEO of Driving Single Parents, which is a nonprofit where we give away cars to single parents in need. Also the founder and editor-in-chief of Force Magazine, where we highlight people who are forced to be reckoned with, the host of Little Give TV show, and his Manifesting Bullshit podcast. I'm a 5-time international best-selling author and a beekeeper. So that's a bit about me. And I guess I can go on to answer your second question, which is, I kind of grew up in super humble beginnings. I didn't have a lot, sometimes running water or electricity, and we very often went without transportation. Yeah, so we went without a lot of things growing up, and that really put me on a path to really try to not only help myself get to a better level of success in life, but also show others that they can do it too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So were you in the corporate world prior to the nonprofit that you're running?
Nope.
Okay. You've always been an entrepreneur since you were, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I love
awesome.
Entrepreneurship. It's so much fun. I've had various jobs throughout my life, but yeah, no, I love entrepreneurship is definitely my go-to.
That's awesome. What did you do entrepreneur-wise prior to the nonprofit for the cars for single mothers?
Well, I can go back to back in the day whenever, like I said, I was super, poor. We didn't have a whole lot growing up. My first entrepreneur thing is I would go sell plastic canvas butterflies at school that my mom would make. So that was my very first one. And then when I was really young, I think I must have been like 18 or 19 years old, I actually started Cindy's Precious Dachshunds, where I rehomed puppies and dachshunds.
Wow, that's
yeah, I
awesome.
know. It's so
Dog
funny.
lover.
I actually built my own website with the HTML coding and all this stuff back in the
I
day.
remember those days, yeah.
Yeah. So it was fun. But yeah, my entrepreneurship it's always been a part of me, always trying to find ways to make things better or help others in some way, shape, or form.
Gotcha. So yeah, sometimes, when I have folks on and they had that corporate job and they left that corporate job to become an entrepreneur and those stressful times and whatnot. But if you've always been a consummate entrepreneur, you've just built, so you got to where you are through building from all the stuff you learned through the entrepreneurial path. Kind of like, I didn't start out in podcasting. I didn't even start out in voiceover. Voiceover led me to podcasting, but prior to voiceover, I helped my wife with Cincy. We kind of were both entrepreneurs doing the Cincy thing and a couple of other MLMs. I did send out cards for a while, but I was always a construction worker with my dad, so that I kind of learned it from my mom and dad. But that's how I've basically been an entrepreneur old enough since I was old enough to mow a lawn in the neighborhood is what I tell people. But so what led you to the area of where you're at now and how many years has this nonprofit been around with the what is it cars for
it's called Driving Single Parents. And actually, It'll be 8 years in March of 2025 that we've been doing this. And how it started is kind of funny. I had ended up in a domestic violence relationship, and I escaped that situation and really worked hard, two jobs myself through college, trying to make a life for me and my daughters. And I always knew I was going to find a way to give back to single parents, because I myself promised myself I would never be a single parent, that I really felt like my mom and dad could have done a better job at staying together and all the things. But then whenever you end up in a situation like I was in, I had no choice. Dr. Phil said it's better to come from a broken home than it is to grow up in one. And when I heard those words, I literally got up, got a basket of clothes, a bag of diapers, and my daughters, and we rebuilt a new life for us. So it made me realize that being a single parent is not something that most people choose. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what I'd love to be today? A single parent. It will not happen. It does not happen. And so that's why I decided I was going to do something when I got on the other side of success. So when I got a little bit better off, I was brainstorming on what I could do, because the number one thing I didn't want to do was put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And there are just so many amazing nonprofits out there that do so much. Like, if you give somebody a meal, they need that, but they need it again tomorrow. If you give diapers, they need it again by the end of the week. Right. So it's always like you are relying on someone else to get what you need. So I was really brainstorming on what I could do for these single parents that would help get them to the next level, help them have the tools they need to help themselves succeed, help themselves get to the next level. And I was actually at dinner one night, and I literally stood at the table at the restaurant and said, that's it. I'm going to give away cars to single parents. And within 24 hours, I built the business plan and I built the website within 24 hours. And then less than a month later, we gave away the first car. So that's how Driving Single Parents was born.
That's fantastic. And that's what one of my questions was going to be. What was the inspiration for that? And you answered that so eloquently during that process. I didn't even have to ask the question. So, but that was a big question of how it got started. Even when we had our pre-call, I was like, man, I'm going to make sure I know how this got started, because who comes up with that crazy idea? Like, wait, a car? My nonprofit is giving someone a car, not. I mean, and it's giving it, right? Like, it's not like, I'm gonna let you have it for a month and then you take over the payment. It's theirs to have.
Yeah, it's theirs to have, and we even cover like tax, title, and license and everything. The only thing the single parent has to pay for is they have to get car insurance, and that's not a rule of ours. That is a Texas state law.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you got it. You have to have insurance.
That's the only thing they have to pay for.
Yeah, but and anymore, that can be so little, and they can just cover for liability and not even worry about the vehicle.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
I leave that choice up to them.
Yeah, exactly. But that's good. So how many families have you, how many single parents, and it's both women and men, correct? Have you helped out men just as much as women? Okay. You said single parents, and I think I remembered earlier that it was single moms, but it's single parents that incorporates us both. So how many people have you helped in the 8 years that you've been doing this?
I don't like to say how many, because it's a ripple effect. It's not just the parent that we're helping. It's not just the kids we're helping. It's their community they're helping. It's such a ripple effect. So I really like to talk a lot about them as people and how it's really affected them and their family as a whole.
That's awesome. Now, when it comes to whereabouts, is this something that is a national 501c3, or is this only for local people in the Texas area?
So this is a 501c3, but it's only currently in Bexar County, Texas. I do plan to expand. We are working on that as we speak. Obviously, it's a huge feat whenever you're trying to fund for something like giving away cars. Right. So it is something that we have a work in progress.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and because I had a recording that'll probably be on the week before you. It was another nonprofit gal, and she does a nonprofit for people that they have issues with the legal system for whatever reason. And I told her about you. And she wants to meet you. So that's what podcasting is all about, is connecting people, meeting people, making sure that this left, ABC meets DEF, and
that's right.
And when I told her that you were a nonprofit that deals with, vehicles for the parents, for single parents, she goes, oh my gosh, that's one area that we've been looking into. That'd be great. I mean, so instead of recreating the wheel, maybe there's a synergy involved with her and you could make it go national through the both of you.
Absolutely.
Or something like that. But either way, I'm going to make sure that I wanted to talk to you today and let you know that, after we record or before we record. But I'm telling you now that I've got a name and email address that I'm going to be sharing, and she'll be expecting to hopefully hear from you so you guys can collaborate. So,
I would love to connect with her. And that's one thing people ask me all the time is like, aren't you afraid someone's going to steal your idea? I always say, I hope so.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. I mean, the whole mission is to help get single parents back on the road again. So if you want to do it in your state, come on.
Yeah,
let's brainstorm. I'll help you.
Exactly. Why? That's the thing. It's the same when someone asks me about podcasting, or they don't even realize that podcasting can be as as straightforward as it is nowadays, and through all the difficulty I had with podcasting from my early days and now how simple it is for me to podcast. I mean, I run 2 of my own podcasts, plus I help 7 other people with their podcasts. And I just, through technology and through workflows, and I've built that bridge over all those pitfalls that most people go through, that I went through. And that's what I explained to people. I said, listen, if you have pitfalls or you think that there's going to be pitfalls in podcasting, I'm your guy. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Or if you've had your pitfalls, like I had one gal that was getting ready to quit her podcast. And I'm like, hold on a second. Let's just rethink this. Tell me your struggles. Tell me where you're hurting. Tell me where it's a pain point. And as soon as she opened up and she let the floodgates flow of what her problems were, I said, I can solve this, this, and this. And this last problem, let's just think about it a little bit differently. And I explained to her my philosophy for podcasting. And she went, oh my God, Kyle, you just saved my podcast. And I was like, oh, that feels so good, so I'm sure it's the same concept when you have someone that you're building that bridge for them on getting a car, on or starting a 501c3. I'm sure you've helped people do that before too. That's I like to tell people that I learned something when I went through my own counseling, that when you seek wise counsel, it benefits everyone. And that's basically what you and I do. We both have seek wise counsel, and we're going to do more. And it's just a matter of the folks that trust us and know us. If they're seeking us as counsel and our wisdom, they're going to benefit, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's awesome.
So you mentioned earlier that you focus on what it did in the ripple effect. Talk to me about your most profound ripple effect moment.
My goodness, I have the best one to share with you. So we had given away a vehicle to Latika Sims years back, and she joined our board of directors right away. We actually have 4 previous recipients. We're about to have 5 on our board of directors because we feel like they have insight that nobody else would have. So she joined our board of directors. She moved up the ranks to vice president of philanthropy. And one day out of the blue, she just called me and she said, Cindy, guess what? She had graduated with her master's degree, was doing really good, got a fantastic job after she received the car. And she said, I'm doing so good. I actually went and bought myself a car, and I want to donate the vehicle y'all gave me back to the nonprofit. So we actually blessed another family with that car. And that mom is actually actively enrolled to become a dentist. So just a ripple effect, and just knowing that, wow, you know what? This is what I wanted. This is what it's all about. The circle, the ripple, the everything of it all coming full circle, and showing that the people that we help are not somebody who just takes the car and sells it next month. Somebody who uses that as a tool to get to the next level and then turns around and gives back the gift that they were given to them.
That's fantastic. And is that something, you just said something that spoke, does that something you guys have in the bylaws of when they accept the free car, that they can't just go out and sell it, or is it theirs to have and do what they will?
No, we do have a condition in there where they cannot sell it without approval from the board. And then it has to be completely unsolvable. Like, say, for instance, the motor were to blow or something. We've never had this happen before, knock on wood. But if it were to happen, there are ways that people can sell their car if something happens to it like that. Or they have like an insurance claim or things, you never know what could happen. We do have those provisions.
Wow, that's great. And so that's one success story. Now, just like anybody growing a business and the struggles that we have and the setbacks, tell us a little bit about something that was a setback or something that you struggled with, but it ended up being a blessing or the thing that you needed. Do you have one of those stories?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say when nothing goes right, go left. And there's no win or lose. You either win or you learn. And I've done a lot of both. So the losing part has been, you start something like this and you're like, wow, this is a really great idea. And it feels so good, right? Like, I know I'm on the right path. And then you open up the donation line and nothing happens. And you're thinking, geez, like, why isn't anybody donating? Maybe it's a stupid idea. And then you start to worry that, like, hey, maybe this wasn't a good idea after all. There's been times where we've been barely short on the funds to buy another car and, actively trying to fundraise. We've had things fall through. I mean, we had a vehicle that we were giving away, and the morning we went to go and get it washed for the giveaway, it was full of water. We could have, in the bottom of it, you could hear sloshing around water. I mean, we've just had so many things that happened where there's just completely insane. You can't even imagine some of the things that can happen and how difficult it is to find the perfect car for the right family.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so real quick, when it comes to, yeah, I know it's meant for cars, but do you guys do any other support inside of the nonprofit? Like, do you support other things, or is it only strictly vehicles? Or do they, if they need help and assistance elsewhere, do you have, areas that you can say, okay, well, this is what you can do for food, this is what you can do for housing? Do you have that stuff inside of it too, or is it just strictly cars?
We're happy to refer people if they have a question about some of the things you mentioned, but we really do try to focus on just the cars because we feel like we want to do one thing excellent and not get, sidetracked with a bunch of other things. But we do have resources that we can refer individuals to if they end up in a situation like that.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, is this something that because it is so local, is this something where local administration, local townships or counties where they support you or have been able to, help you with it when it comes to legislation or pitfalls that come about the legal system for it all, or what have you found with that?
So we have chief legal counsel on our board of directors. So we do have the legal part figured out. We were awarded a proclamation, and National Single Parents Day is March 21st. So that we were given that for driving single parents, and that was signed by the mayor. So yeah, we do get a lot of local support and a lot of people who really rally behind us to try to help us. And local businesses, car dealerships help us. I mean, we really
that was my
have
next question was, what car dealership do you have? Like, is there a single car dealership that basically does all your transactions, or is it just a matter of who benefits for the type of car they need at the time?
It's whatever I can get the car from, or whoever I can get the car from that's going to be perfect for the recipient is where I get it. So no, it's not just one. We have had a car giveaway through Carvana before.
Okay.
We just recently, on the 21st of this month, November, we actually gave away a vehicle through Red McCombs Ford West. We've partnered with Service King before. We've partnered with some smaller dealerships. Yeah, so just pretty much what I do is I go on the hunt. And in fact, this last vehicle that we gave away, I went to 42 different dealerships.
Wow.
And just searched for the perfect car. So finally found it at Red McCombs Ford West. And so that's why we partnered with them this time.
That's great. Well, 42 dealerships in your local area. Everybody, like she said before, she's from Texas. We all know things are bigger in Texas, including car dealerships, right? No. We probably have 42 dealerships in Columbus, but it's probably right about that. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, but I think, one of the biggest Ford dealerships is here in Ohio. At least that's what they claim from what we hear. But yeah,
and most people focus on those bigger dealerships. So they're like, oh, you have the Ford dealership, you have this.
Yeah.
But there's so many smaller dealerships that are out there. And I actually really like to partner with small dealerships just because it's a win-win. It's like you're putting a spotlight on them saying, we partner with this, dealership that a lot of people may not know about. And then they're partnering with us. And so I think it's a really win-win. And no matter which, if it's a big one or a small one, doesn't matter. But that a lot of the ones that I look at are smaller dealerships.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's probably each time you give a car away, I mean, I'm sure you make it kind of a big to-do, or do you kind of keep it down on the lowdown?
No, we definitely make it a big to-do. We invite the media out. They'll come out and put it on the news.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely try to make a big to-do of it because
Live. No.
Yeah, yes. Because when you think about it, if you say someone's going to give away cars, people are like, really? No, give away cars. Come on. It seems kind of, like unreal. And so that really helps with the news.
That's why when you said you give away cars, I went, wait, what? You give away cars? I was like, oh, I definitely need to know more about this. Because,
that's what most people do. So the news really does help share what we do and then also show that, hey, we are a real 501c3 nonprofit.
Right. Well, and I'm sure, I'm getting ready to drop in my sponsor here, and I mentioned that it would eventually come up. I'm sure that, my sponsor deals with anxiety and some of the major downfalls that people have from, not being enough, not being not having that self-worth. And this kind of, someone getting a car so they can go and provide for their family and their schooling or whatever to get places, that has to weigh on their self-worth and most likely their anxiety, right? Tell us a little story about somebody that just, it changed everything, not only for their life, but for their, for that personal side of things. Do you have a story on that?
Yeah, well, I have every single story of every single person we've ever helped has had a story like that. But I'll give you a really good one. The first vehicle we ever gave away went to a gentleman who was actually hit by a drunk driver. In that accident, he not only lost his car, but he lost his wife and his leg. So he became a single dad overnight, and then obviously had some handicap needs there. So I made sure to get him an SUV that way could handle his children and then also his handicap needs and get him back and forth to rehabilitation and the things that he needed. But he still drives that car to this day and refuses to sell it because it's so
It meant so
sentimental to
much.
him. But
Right.
that was a really big one where you have somebody who's can kind of stripped of a lot of things at one time and really dealt with a lot of anxiety and stress and how am I going to get
Mhm.
through this and how am I going to work and how am I going to, all the how am I gonna, and the one thing he
Yeah.
didn't have
Yeah.
to worry about was that car that could get him to wherever it is he needed to go.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, real quick, like I said, we'll take a quick word from our sponsor, and we'll come back and finish up and find out how people can get a hold of Cindy and maybe even duplicate what she does, or if you're in the Texas area and need your help to reach out to her. So, real quick word from our sponsor here, and we'll be back.
Let me ask you a question. Would your life be better if whatever you're struggling with, you could finally break free of? So what am I talking about? The Funky Five. What's the Funky Five, you ask? It's those oh-so-familiar struggles: procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, low self-confidence, and the one I call the big A, anxiety. For years, I struggled to manage my own version. I call them my Funky Three. I had 3 of these Funky Five weighing me down. I've tried just about everything to deal with them. Then a guest on my podcast, Daniel Packard, shared with me a profound thought that I had never thought of. So Daniel, a UC Berkeley engineer, spent 8 years working with his team and over 3,000 people to create an approach that doesn't just help you manage these issues. It actually frees you from them by getting right to the root of what's holding you back. So after meeting with Daniel, I decided to give it a shot, and within 6 short weeks, gone. Truly gone. I was so amazed. The number one thing I was dealing with was procrastination. But miraculously, a deeper-rooted struggle with people-pleasing, something I'd been unknowingly battling for a lifetime, lifted entirely. And the anxiety that came with them both, gone as well. Are you tired of battling any of your Funky Fives? People-pleasing, procrastination, perfectionism, low self-confidence, and the biggest happy killer of them all, the A word, anxiety. Imagine how much better life would be if you weren't just managing these things, but free of them, quickly, and yes, permanently. If you're ready for a real solution, head to danielpackard.com and get his free 90-minute training. Daniel himself will walk you through what makes his approach so different and teach you a technique you can use immediately to start feeling the difference. So if any of the Funky Five, or maybe your own version of the Funky Five, are holding you back, don't wait. Visit danielpackard.com. You can truly get results and start living the life you want.
All right, and we're back now from hearing about Daniel and his amazing program, danielpackard.com. Please, please, please visit that and just go and take that 90-minute free course that he's offering for you, because I tell you what, the reason why he is my sponsor is I dealt with my own anxieties. I'm a first responder. If people have listened to my podcast in the past, I'm a first responder who faced some mental health challenges, and anxiety was part of the issue that I had, and it's expunged. I no longer deal with anxiety. What used to be a 9 or 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10, now I'm at that 0 or 1 level, and I have the tools that he taught me to use. So don't hesitate. If you have one of the Funky Five, please go visit his webpage and find out more about it. And just, like I did, schedule a call with him and just see how he can help you. So now we're back with Cindy Witteman and talking about her, her program and the cars that she gives away for single parents. Fantastic program. Tell people how to get a hold of you, where they can go and find out more. Hopefully someone's here and trying to, if they're waiting for that aha moment and like, oh my gosh, I want to do that in my area. She's local. She could help. Tell us all about how we can find you and get more details on everything that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go to drivingsingleparents.org. We have all the information on the site, whether it is you want to make a donation. I always tell people $1 or $5 can make a huge impact. And right now we're trying to fund for our next giveaway. So if we can just get 40 people to give $100, we'll have enough to give away another car by Christmas.
Wow.
So we're working on that right now. And so there is where you can also find how to apply if you or someone you know needs a vehicle. And then if you would like to reach out to us via email, you could reach us at info@drivingsingleparents.org. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to help however we can in your area.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And of course, are you on Facebook? And do you have your own Facebook, or is it a Facebook page for an Instagram, all that stuff? What are all those details? Or are they all on the website?
Yeah, they're all on the website, but you can also just look up Driving Single Parents on Instagram or Driving Single Parents on Facebook. We're available in both places. You can also find me everywhere on social media under my name, Cindy Witteman.
That's awesome. Well, Cindy, let's talk a little bit about the Force magazine. I had you asked me if I wanted to be in Force, and I have written an article, so we'll have to talk about that in deep detail maybe when the recording's over. But talk to us a little bit more about the Force magazine, what it is, what it does, and how that came about.
Absolutely. So it's actually kind of a funny story. I have a fear of public speaking, and I absolutely hate being on camera, but I don't mind being on camera with you today, Kyle. But
you look
I
marvelous,
really do.
darling, marvelous. You know? It is much better to look and to feel good, right? No.
Thank you. But I made a promise to myself that I was going to get over this fear of public speaking. As the founder and CEO of a nonprofit, you got to speak, right? So I made this commitment to myself. I ended up with the TV show and all the other things I do. And then somebody out of nowhere asked me one night, hey, Cindy, so, what's next for you? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I already started a nonprofit. I already TV show. I already have 5 best-selling books. Like, what do you want from me?
Squeezing the
my
last
first
drop
reaction,
out of that. Yeah.
I'm like, what else you need from me? So anyway, so every night before bed for 3 nights, I wrote down what's next for you. And I really thought to myself, like, is this it? Is this all you have in you? Are you done? Is this it? And anyways, for 3 nights in a row, I wrote it down. And the last night I wrote it down right before bed, I had this dream that I founded my own magazine. Force magazine is what it was in the dream. I actually saw the cover before the picture was ever even taken. And the next morning I woke up, I wrote it out. I called up my publicist and said, hey, do y'all think y'all can help me with this? And they said, yeah, we can help you with that. And within 30 days, I had my very first edition of Force magazine released.
That's awesome. And what kind of stuff do you highlight in Force? And is that a paper and online, or is it just online? Tell us a little bit of details on that.
Yes, it's available both in digital and paperback. It's available in 13 countries. And really what we focus on is highlighting good news. And if any of you out there go and look me up at all, that's my whole mission in life, is to create opportunities for other people to shine and also showcase good news. There's so much bad news out there. People really seem to focus on that. And what's really important to me is to shine a light on the good people like you in this world, Kyle, who are doing amazing things, trying to make the world a better place. So that's what Force really focuses on, is anybody who's a force to be reckoned with and wants to make this world a little better.
Every time you say the force to be reckoned with, I think of that. I think of the Fox Force 5 out of Pulp Fiction. You ever see that movie?
I don't know if I've ever seen that. Maybe.
Pulp Fiction was really popular in the mid 90s, and it had Bruce Willis and Uma Thurman, and it's one of those weird directors from Hollywood that always do these weird movies, but it's just such a cult classic. And the one gal that was featured on the had a TV show called the Fox Force 5, and during the show they talked about why the name was that, and it's Uma Thurman, and the way she describes it is, it's a very hilarious moment. She said, Fox, that's because she goes, Fox because we're foxy ladies, Force because we're a force to be reckoned with, 5 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. And I'm like,
well, that's funny. I've never heard that.
Yeah, so every time when you said force to be reckoned with, I'm like, oh, I wonder if she's a Pulp Fiction fan, because it's like 5, foxy because we're all foxy, force because we're a force to be reckoned with, and 5 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. And she's just, when she says it, she's such a badass in it. I'm like, yeah, I believe you.
I'm gonna have to look up that clip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, probably just put in Pulp Fiction Fox Force 5 in YouTube. I'm sure you'll find it. Yeah,
I bet I will. I'll check it out.
But that's great. So what kind of articles do you guys highlight in Force, not Fox Force 5, in Force, in the Force magazine? Yeah,
just anybody who's out there trying to make a difference in any way. We like educational, inspirational, people who like to share stories of resilience. I mean, it could be really just anything. People who have nonprofits, people who are business owners. I mean, we have ad space in there. So really just anything that's positive. We don't showcase the latest lipstick or like the best fashion, because I'm not that kind of person. So we don't do that part. I know a lot of other magazines do that already, which is awesome for them. But we really focus on like inspirational stories and things that will make you smile. When you're sitting in a waiting room and you have nothing else to do, I would love it if people could pick up Force magazine and leave that office feeling like they learned something.
That's awesome. Now, how do we find Force magazine? Is it force.com or force.org?
ForceMagazineFeature.com is the best place to find it. And also you can find it at force.magazine.feature on Instagram.
Okay, cool. And we'll make sure that all of the links for everything will be in the description below, so you guys can just click on it. But yeah, fantastic. So with what you said earlier, before we wrap things up, what's next, Cindy? What else are you gonna do? You have anything in
What
the
else am
plans?
I gonna do?
Do you have
Oh,
anything
no.
well, you got a podcast, so we don't have to talk about that. So, but or we can talk about it. So yeah, actually tell us a little bit about your podcast and how to find that. To hear all the different things that you do.
Yeah, so the podcast actually stems from a book that I wrote with my two oldest daughters. I have
Okay.
6 kiddos and 4 grandkids and 1 on the way. And so my 2 oldest daughters and I were talking one day, and I had already written 2 books. I've written in 2 books. And my daughter said, Mom, wouldn't it be cool if we wrote a book together? I said, sure. What do you want it to be
Sure.
about? So we kind of nailed down manifesting. So we're like, oh, let's talk about manifesting. So we ended up with the
Nice.
title is Manifesting Bullshit. And since we started writing that book and I would talk to people about it or, do book signings or whatever, people would always say, well, is it? Like they genuinely wanted to know. And so I said, I was driving to work one day and I was like, man, you know what? I should start a podcast because wouldn't it be cool to like hear all opinions, not just people who are for it, not just people who are against it, but just anybody who has an opinion or a thought or a story about manifesting. So that's how I was born. So I just used the same title, created the podcast. And it's been really fun. I've met with people from all around the world who have some amazing stories to share and some skeptics and critics. And I just think it's a really fun, thought-provoking podcast.
Yeah, and I know a little bit about manifesting. I had a friend of mine who 100% believes in manifesting, and it's not that I'm not a believer. It's just, it's one of those things, I wouldn't even want to say just, it's one of those things where, I feel, and you can probably speak on this a little bit, if you're a positive person and things happen for you, that can be part of manifesting because you're positive. Because when you're negative, I mean, we know this for a fact. You can talk bad to a plant and treat a plant like crap, and it dies. But if you talk positive to it, I mean, that's been proven. There's been studies that have done that where people just do normal watering and talk to it nicely and it thrives. Normal watering and talk to it meanly and it dies. And then you're like, what is this? I mean, it sounds wonky, but there's actual documentation out there for that is believable. So it's one of the things, in my opinion, manifestation is an uber ultimate positive mindset, which is all part of manifestation, is that positive, energetic, we're all energy. We all know we're energy because one reason why we know that we have energy is because of our heart beats, okay? And I'm medical. Our heart beats because of the energy that's inside of us. So we have energy. We can actually see it on an EKG. There's actual electricity going through our body, and that energy can be positive or negative. And if you carry yourself in a positive way and think positively, that's all part of the manifestation stuff.
Oh, I agree 100%. When you just said it, I mean, if you have to feed your brain and you have to water your brain and you have to talk nicely to your brain, and then a lot of good positive things can happen, because if you don't believe yourself that you can do it, you'll never try. So part of manifesting to me is self-belief and actually figuring out what you want. Because if you can figure out what you want, then you can figure out a roadmap on how to get there. So that's what I believe manifesting really is, self-belief.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, Cindy Witteman, thank you so much for coming on the Ignition Path podcast and sharing your amazing stories about your multiple different areas and your what nexts and what you've done to change this world. I love meeting positive people like you. I'm sure that we'll connect in other ways going forward. That's why we were introduced the very first time, because another positive person in my life that I had met realized that I'm a positive person, and they say, hey, let's meet all these positive people, because that's what it's all about. That's what the Ignition Path podcast is about. That's what Cindy's podcast is about. That's what her organization is about. And that's what the Force magazine is about. So you've got the trifecta here. So I'm glad that there are, these type of people in the world, and don't hesitate. If anything that she said today, if you had that notion where you feel like you need to donate even that $5, like she said, would help for that car service, or you've been a single parent before and didn't have vehicle services, but now you do, you've got some place to go and donate some money and have that as a tax write-off for the end of the year. Let's help her get to that car before Christmas. That would be a fantastic Christmas present for a family, wouldn't it? We're going to put the seed. That's positive manifestation. It's going to happen. We're talking about it now positively. I'm throwing it out there in the world that it's going to happen. I'm actually going to bump your episode in front of somebody else's so we have the full month of December.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because that's one thing I usually ask is, okay, with this episode, is there anything that is time sensitive? And the folks that say, no, time sensitive, then I can move them around. But the people that say a little bit of time sensitive, or I'd like this to get out before next week because I've got something big. So we'll do that, and we'll make sure that we have a few weeks in advance to get that as come to fruition when it comes to that vehicle for a family. So,
thank
Cindy,
you so
anything
much.
else you want to add at all? I always like to.
I just want to tell everybody out there that even if you can't afford to donate to a nonprofit in your area or one that you love, the easiest, best thing you can do is find them online and share their content, because you never know whatever post you're sharing, how that can really impact somebody else. It could land in front of somebody who needs the assistance, or it can land in front of somebody who can help them get to their goal. So share those posts, share those nonprofits out there. It's really, really important, and it goes a long way.
Fantastic. All right, Cindy, thank you so much for coming on Ignition Path Podcast. And the folks out there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you heard anything during this conversation that you definitely want to share with your friends and family, hit that share button and let them know. And let's spread the word of the Ignition Path and everything that Cindy is doing that is fantastic in her world. And don't hesitate to reach out to her. I know she was very accommodating to meet up with me when I wanted to get to know her after we were introduced. And I'm sure she'll be the same way no matter what you need that you heard that for this. So thanks again, Cindy, for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for you and all that you're doing to make the world a better place.
Thank you for listening to Ignition Path, fueling the entrepreneurial fire.